at the office as well. Okay. So today we are going to go over the Real Estate Consumer Protection Act, which we're gonna have a little bit of fun with it. And we're gonna call it the Heartburn Training Series. And what's gonna evolve, whatever we go through today, the forms that we're gonna review are gonna be the forms for now. Meaning there's no guarantee that the forms are not gonna change by the end of the year. Okay, because the plaintiff's attorneys are overseeing real estate transactions. A lot of the agents, when they start putting in their listings, they're being monitored by attorneys now. So people will ask me, okay, how do we know what's gonna happen, when it's gonna happen? They're putting in audit protocols in place now. So every, let's say, 15th listing that gets entered into an MLS is gonna now be they're gonna request the listing agreement. They're gonna request the property seller's disclosure. They're gonna request the stuff that we're going through right now. So you may not have to submit it upon listing, but you're still on the hook. You still have to have it, right? Let me just make sure anybody. Okay, they can unmute themselves if they want. Okay. Next slide. So this is the Real Estate Consumer Protection Enhancement Act. Okay, the bill S3192. We're just going to go through an overview right now. We're going to go macro and then we'll go micro. The best way to remember the 6 different policies that went into place is with the acronym BRANDS. Okay, that's kind of something I came up with just to help myself understand the changes. And what are those changes? Brokerage service agreements are required. We're going to go through the brokerage service agreements. You need signage at an open house if you're the listing agent to disclose that you're representing the seller. Your interests are aligned with the seller. So if a buyer comes in, you're letting them know you can put a deal through me, but I'm representing the seller. Now, there's workarounds for that as well. Can you share the slides when yes, we're gonna share the slides. We are going to send out the video recordings. All of this is going to be available to the whole firm. And the folder with all these new forms that have been changed and developed, everybody's going to have access to it as well. Okay. Rob is you got it, Lauren. Rob will be here to message you guys too in a little bit. Hey, Tamika. Hi, everyone. Okay, so agency, you can have designated agency now, which wasn't allowed before. What that means is the broker can act as a neutral party and have one agent. So Mike can be a designated agent for the seller and Peggy could be a designated agent for the buyer now. And you can also get paid from both parties now, whereas before you can only get paid by one person. Okay, so we're gonna review all of this. The new CE requirements, all of the stuff that we're gonna review right now, they're gonna incorporate it into yet another CE requirement. So like ethics is required now, and now the Consumer Protection Enhancement Act and brokerage agreements are gonna be included now. Disclosures in multiple disclosure changes in multiple listing services. So this is the compensation part. Just because it's not being listed, gets confusing, and a lot of agents have asked me this. You can't list the compensation in the MLS. There's no form, right? Or section for it anymore. That's only for sales. If you look up rental listings, there's still a compensation field for rental listings. It'll say half month minus 100, half month minus 50, whatever it is. The actual listing agreement doesn't take out the disclosure because you need to know what the seller is going to pay you, right? So this is only for the MLS. Only in the MLS are you not going to see the compensation fields, right? So this only affects the realtors that have buyers, that are working with buyers, because now they have to call the sellers. And we'll go through each of these one by one. Seller's property condition disclosure is now a requirement. I got the question as well. What if it's an estate? What if no one is there? What if, then you know what? You're gonna go through the probate attorney and you're gonna have them fill it out with you as NA, whoever has the power of attorney. But regardless, it needs to be in place. You don't need to submit it to the MLS. But they're gonna have they're gonna have audit procedures in place, right? So this class action lawsuit, yes, a few attorneys made a lot of money. Sure, but there's also a whole lot of money that was set aside for people to oversee and implement these changes. So don't think that there aren't attorneys that are monitoring the NAR and that there aren't attorneys being paid that are monitoring the MLS system.
What's the difference between the property condition disclosure and a seller disclosure?
It's the same thing.
Same
Seller property, yeah, seller's property
Okay.
condition disclosure. So now, but this was never required before.
Now it is.
Now it has to be in place. So my personal advice based on speaking and being married to and being around attorneys all day long is no matter what, even if you don't know what's going on, you're better off just putting NA, not applicable, unknown, than not even filling it out at all. Okay, so you always want to make sure every single section of that is filled out. And a lot of you do it. A lot of the listing agents in the firm do it anyway. Okay. And now here are all the new forms that just came out. Oh, whoops. Okay. The contract of sale. There's a new contract of sale form. All of these is in zip form, and all of these forms, I also have a Google Drive link that you guys have access to, the whole firm has access to with all of these new forms, okay? The contract of sale just says it's gonna clearly state who's paying the fee. Is the buyer paying a fee? Is the seller paying a fee? We'll go through section 29 and 30 in detail. The next heartburn session series, but for all intents and purposes, whatever you want to call it, these two sections just state this change, this bill, they're 3192. Now, the agency forms, these are things that we should have had in place to begin with, right? There's non-exclusive buyer agency agreement. A non-exclusive buyer agency agreement means that they are not your sole buyer, meaning on the form, you're gonna have lines where you can put in the properties that you'll show. Or you can tell them, listen, you can take a look at properties with any realtor that you want, but property A, B, C, D that I'm gonna show you, I'm your agent. Now, is there a method? Is there a standard that's been put in place? No. So you need to document it through emails or through like a sign-in sheet where every time you show the property or before you go and show the property, you have them e-sign it or you have them whatever. Docu-sign it or sign it while they're with you. Now, a lot of people are doing non-exclusive buyer agency agreements with a rebate, meaning you buy a property through me that I show you, I'll give you $1,000. I showed that we actually had an agent who was knocking out deals left and right in Morris County because he was given $1,000 to the buyers every time they bought through him. And the word got out. And we're okay with it. But if you do that, it comes off the top. So it's not like and that's fair for everyone. We're being generous with that too. Now, exclusive buyer agency agreement, which a lot of you guys do get signed, is the way to go. Because if you're going to commit, and it avoids, which we're going to go into, potential discrimination issues or potential, you don't want to work for free. So as long as you detail what you are willing to work with and what you are willing to work for, then you avoid any issues or any agita with legal or compliance or whatever. Non-exclusive buyer agency agreement with a rebate, which is what Choke used to do all the time. That's a good pitch. I mean, it's if you're telling, let's say, if you have no buyers in your inventory and you're able to market that, hey, if you work with me, you get $1,000 off. And as a brokerage, we're telling you we take it off the top, not from your commission. It's a win-win for everyone, right? I don't know who does that still. It's just something we had. Now, exclusive tenant agency agreement. This is for Darius, Cora. I'm trying to remember what, Jennifer, everybody working the OP buildings, which are luxury, no fee buildings where the landlord pays us. Okay, a lot of times what happens is Mike shows property B in East Rutherford where the landlord pays us the fee. But then that tenant decides to rent in Cliffside Park at a building that pays the fee with Billy. Okay, so now you just showed him all these buildings that are no fee. But if the tenant sees it with another agent somewhere else, you're out of luck. I think exclusive tenant agency agreements on the rental front should be the easiest thing to sign and get signed because they're not losing anything. It's mandatory now, so there's no if and or maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't do it. I may not be monitoring it. Rob might not be monitoring it one by one, but the MLS is. And so all the MLS has to do is when it's your turn on their little audit roll or whatever, however they're doing it, bingo, I don't know what they're doing. If you get called and you don't have it, it's a fine. And I think the first year they're going to be very lenient, but eventually all of this is going to result in less listings being listed on the MLS. If your seller's not willing to cooperate, why would you list it on the MLS? Who wants to get 50,000 phone calls to say no? No, the seller's not paying this up. Who wants that? So they're not going to list. Now, the power listing agents, they will list it because even though they're not cooperating, it's a marketing technique and it's a tool to show. But really, the MLS, they're going to lose a lot of people. They're going to lose a lot of data. It's going to make a less transparent marketplace eventually, is what I think.
It's gonna be more like the commercial real estate.
It's going to be more like commercial real estate. And commercial real estate is exempt from all of this. You don't need any of this if you work in commercial. For those of you guys that do commercial, as far as the informed consent to designated agency, informed consent for the buyer, seller, tenant, landlord, that says now that if the landlord, let's say, pays a fee, and then the tenant is paying you a fee as well, that's accepted, except we have to create designated agency utilizing these forms. So you can collect payment from two different parties now. We just need a designated agency to have for that to take place. Also, and we're going to go through that too, but the main important part of this is that rather than dual agency and all the things that could come from it and all the issues that can come from it, because you can't really serve two people realistically. This enables you to do that. So if Mike gets a buyer and Margaret has the seller, okay, cool. Like we have to make you a designated buyer's agent now. And you would become a designated seller's agent so that this way down the line, the seller can't say, well, you know, they were representing the buyer. You know, I listed the property with them, but the buyer got all of that goes away. That said, the liability now falls on the agent when you do the designated agency. And we'll go through that because the broker now is overseeing the buyer and the seller agent and working as more of like a transaction neutral party, a transaction broker, right? So things that can arise is going to be more on the realtor now. The cooperating broker compensation agreement, that'll show, that's just part of the listing agreement that states whether or not the seller's going to pay, the landlord's going to pay on a rental, and stuff like that. Or a sale. This is very important. Seller's property disclosure statement. The new law mandates seller disclosures for better transparency and consumer protection. Sellers must provide buyers a signed and completed property condition disclosure statement before the buyer becomes contractually obligated to purchase a property. This applies to all residential sales, including bank-owned properties and estates. And again, with the estates, the probate attorney is going to have to get involved. a lot of the attorneys that are gonna be practicing real estate, they're gonna have new addendums to reflect things like this. And I think that if you have a buyer as well, what's gonna happen is the buyer's gonna fill out the contract of sale, but sections 29 and 30 are gonna be very specific as to what the buyer's being compensated and what the seller is paying out, or the buyer's agent, stuff like this. And so it's gonna be on the attorneys to confirm it. And I don't know how else they're gonna confirm it other than Form 148, the cooperating broker compensation agreement. So just because it's not on the MLS and they took out that little slot, doesn't mean it's not gonna be on paper. Right? The name of the game is, how do we bastardize the brokerage? And the broker and the realtor and the agent. It happened when Zillow came out, it happened when Redfin came out. This is the name of the game. And it's not just our industry, it's every industry. I was telling you the other day, I had sushi in Fort Lee and robots were serving my meal. So, so welcome to, at least here, it provides more control, and I'll go over the pros of what's going on, because there are positives to this. It's not just like, it's not super negative. This is designated agency described in detail. What this is saying is that there's now a fifth type of agency, right? Because we had a seller's agent, we had a buyer's agent, we had a disclosed dual agent, a transaction broker, now we have a designated agent. Okay. And this is all set forth in the consumer information statement sheet that everybody has to have signed. Once updated by the New Jersey Real Estate Commission, the revised CIS will be available on zip form. So right now, I think the CIS, the consumer information statement sheet, is about 2 pages or 3 pages long. All these attorneys are working on making it a 1-page sheet. So that it'll be easier to transact and do business, because this is required. Now, I'm sure a lot of agents, after the buyer decides they want to buy the property, after the buyer decides he's going to make an offer and gets you his pre-approval, whatever, then they're going to get all these things signed. My advice is, don't do that. My advice is, put in the mind of the buyer that they're exclusively working with you. So that if you showed 50 properties to a buyer and then they all of a sudden show up to an open house, which has happened to a ton of people that are online right now, and a lot of you guys that are here, all of a sudden they go to an open house and the listing agent snakes them. This is the positive of these forms.
How do you get away from that?
Let the listing agent do it. All you have to do is send your CIS and your exclusive buyer agency form to the broker. If I received it, and my listing agent tried to snake one of the buyer, and I received that form, perfect, no problem. I would have to reprimand the listing agent. So this is going to create a very fair and balanced playing field for all the Jersey City agents in the company and the waterfront agents, Cora. So designated agency allows for different licensees within the same brokerage firm to represent either party. This has never happened before. So one licensee can represent the seller as the seller's designated agent, and one licensee can represent the buyer as the buyer's designated agent. And in addition to that, you can get paid by both parties for the first time.
So dual agent is only for the agent specifically.
Correct. But even to avoid that, so that you don't get in trouble, like let's say you get the buyer on your own listing, you just make another agent in the company a designated, and Rob is willing to be your designated agent. Since I'm the broker and I can't do it, Rob is willing to be your designated agent, and we go through the paperwork with that. New and updated forms. So if you guys, once I send you guys this form and you guys click on this link, all of those forms that we went through are located in a Google Drive for you guys that you can download at any point and send for e-signature and stuff like that. I already extracted everything from a zip form. That's not to say that just because these are the forms that I have now, that they're not going to continue to edit, right? Because you're talking about a class action lawsuit with hundreds of attorneys that are now in play. And we love attorneys, Leslie. Creation of designated agency. So this is pretty much the same thing. You can do it as long as you get it signed off. Right? How do you hide this thing? Okay. The designated broker for the first time remains neutral about any conflicts or interests between the seller and the buyer. And I can't advocate or negotiate on behalf of a seller or a buyer to the disadvantage of anybody else. This is super important because now the realtors take blame.
So,
As
Lauren has a question. Is
Yeah.
there any recourse if you get ghosted? As far as your cover your ass would be, your buyer's agreement.
What do you mean? Who gets ghosted? As the seller or as the buyer's agent?
I believe that's the buyer's agent.
If they're ghosting you,
Yeah, like if even the tenant's agent, like, so, okay, I got all my paperwork signed and then they just stop answering and you have to assume they found another place with another agent or a buyer or whatever, or a seller rather. But like what good is the piece of paper if there's no broker to send it to? You know what I mean?
you mean if there's designated.
As the buyer or tenant's agent.
As a buyer or a tenant's agent, and they're telling you that they cooperate and then all of a sudden ghost you?
Right. They sign your paper, right? Okay, cool. You're the greatest. You show them 20 places and then one day they just stop answering.
Are you,
Yeah.
so if they go under contract with one of the places that you showed them, and that you'd be open to if you don't get compensated.
No, she's saying.
How would you find that out? You know what I mean?
If your buyer or your tenant ghosts you, not the other realtor, she's saying, well, that's
Yeah.
part
Well,
of
again,
it.
how do you know where to send that form if they're not?
How do you-
contacting
yeah,
you
if-
And they buy a house.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if you had like
that's a risk.
a 6 month,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
yeah, so,
But-
you have a
but the-
time
but
limit
the-
on, that, so if you see that they are under contract with a property that you showed them. And you're still in that window of, where you have your buyer's agreement, and
Yeah, but it's like, she's like saying like, how is she gonna know where Rob went? Or what Rob took, if Rob.
Yeah, like there's no way to really track that
So
technically.
again, this is why, before you do all of this, and you show them 20 places or whatever, when you sign this form and you're explaining it to them, the hope is that it's gonna instill a certain type of loyalty and a certain type of understanding that, hey, you guys are working together. Why anybody would wanna ghost you when the listing agent now has all of this other type of liability is beyond me, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, people are just the
I thought-
worst at the end of the
yeah.
day. I just wanted to see if there was something there.
That's-
Maybe they'll come
That's
up
how you
with
know Lauren's
something.
become an OG veteran. She's in now.
I've always thought that.
Isn't that good for- How long
She's-
is that CIS good for? Like, what if they buy a house and like a year later, you find out like, wait a minute, you bought this house?
But they have to sign.
I don't think really past like 90 days, I don't really think it's gonna hold much weight, to be honest. I really don't. I think if somebody is willing to sign an exclusive agency with you, the likelihood that they would do that is slim, you know? But I don't
You're
put
a
it past
sweet
people.
man.
You're a sweet man. I don't put it past people. And then these are the different types of agency that are described. I mean, as a brokerage, I would love if everything was designated agency. I mean, because then I'm neutral. The likelihood that I can get sued is a little bit of the pressure comes off, but these are the different types. If you're exclusively a seller's agent, it goes through the broker. The broker his responsibility and loyalty is to the seller, or her responsibility, whatever. Buyer's agent, same thing. Disclosed dual agent. As a disclosed dual agent, you really still are protecting the seller's interests. You're not really working for the buyer. You're collecting commission, the whole commission, but the seller's the one who's paying it, right? As a transaction broker, which I think this is going to become way more common. And I think a lot of industries and a lot of brokerages are gonna come out with transaction brokerages, like that guy, what's his name? Quan Ho Zo. There's like a company that came out, Real Mart. I think it's called Real Mart. Where it's like one broker and he has like 50,000 listings, but he charges like a $1,000 flat fee. Still, it's a lot of liabilities. So as a designated agent, I think this is gonna become more commonplace because now when you're a listing agent and you have to have that open house sign on the door, the likelihood that the buyer is gonna feel compelled to go with you because they think if they do that, they're gonna get it, is gonna become less commonplace, right? So they're gonna be less likely to not work with Lauren and just jump to the listing agent. Because, but I don't know if they're gonna read it, so that's the other thing too. You know, you can place it on the desk next to the sign-in sheet, who's gonna read it? Brokerage service agreement. So this is the stuff that we just went through, the exclusive buyer agency agreement, the dual agency agreement, designated agent, whatever it is. At a minimum, you have to have the term of the agreement included. Like Mike said, what about a year later? Or Lauren said, what if after 90 years or whatever, or 90 days? You need to have a term, the name of the brokerage firm, whether the agency relationship is exclusive or non-exclusive, whether they're gonna consent to a dual agency or designated agency. And pretty much everything that we went through. How is the compensation gonna be calculated? Is it gonna be a percentage of the sold price, or is it gonna be a flat fee? So like I had an agent this morning, actually, I think it was Quora, can't remember. Was it Quora? It was somebody this morning. And the buyer was agreeable to paying her a fee. I said, well, how did you pitch it? I'm asking these questions, like, how did you get it signed? How did you pitch it? And she's like, well, I just told them, listen, do you want to go through 50,000 different agents to view the 100 properties that you're going to want to look at? Or if you use me and we come across a property where the seller doesn't cooperate, you just pay me a flat fee of $5,000. I think that was the number. And then she shows the buyer, hey, if you buy a $500,000 property, I'm making 15,000 or 14, whatever the commission is, right? I'm telling you, if the seller's not paying, you just pay me a flat $5,000. Now that works where she is, right? Edgewater, Weehawken, whatever. When you're buying $1 million property, a $5,000 bill is a tip. But I don't know if that's going to work everywhere. So again, you want to write down exactly what you're agreeing to, right? The properties that you're going to show them if it's a non-exclusive. My opinion, my advice is to get them to sign exclusives. And to sweeten the deal, get them to sign exclusives and give them a little bit of a rebate or whatever, you know? So in essence, what the form is doing is making kickbacks legal to your buyer. That's exactly everything that we thought to stop is now is now legal. And it's less transparent. And these are the different forms. Now remember, all these forms are on the Google Drive. As the weeks progress, we're going to go through each form as well. I'm going to do like sessions and trainings on each form. Today, I wanted to give you guys the overview of what's going on. Okay. But there's a few positives. It's not just bad, right? You get that phone call on Sunday. The realtor asks you, but the buyer's asking you 50 million questions. You've been asking me questions for 2 hours on a Sunday. Then you tell me you already have a realtor. That's going to stop. Right? For the most part, it's going to stop. Like, why, if I signed an exclusive agency with Peggy, right? Why would I need to call 50,000 people? I'm going to call her and send her listings. I know it's very rare, but I'm sure everybody loves those clients that are just loyal and they send you the listings that they see on Zillow, or they send you the listings that they find on Redfin or whatever. And they say, hey, can you get me in here? This, and the agent, they're not going to call the agent and then tell you, hey, I called the agent. It's up to you to educate the consumer You don't need to go around me, right? And then the second picture is pretty important. I painted a picture of houses you can afford that meet your criteria. There's nothing there on the canvas. Okay, so be very clear with them. If you only want to work with me and you're not gonna compensate me on stuff the seller's not gonna pay out on, then I'm not showing you those properties. Easy, that's it. And if they end up just wanting all the properties where the seller's not paying, you got a nice white canvas. There's nothing on your canvas. It's what it is, okay? This is the signage at the open house. Now, what it says is, this is to advise you that the agent who is conducting the open house represents the seller and is required by law to promote the interest of the seller. The hope is that at that point, whatever buyer is that's trying to, I don't know, underhand Lauren, for instance, is gonna read this and say, hey, maybe I should not go direct to the listing agent and I should call Lauren since she showed me 30 properties. Maybe she does have my best interest at heart. So it's not all bad, right?
That's definitely good for the buyer's agent.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
I think on a monthly basis, I get 4 phone calls minimum.
Mhm.
That say, well, I've been showing this buyer like 30 houses and all of a sudden they went to the listing agent because the listing agent told them if they didn't put the offer through me, then they're not gonna get the property.
So for that, you're gonna literally like right next to your sign sheet for an open house, you're gonna have to have that paper.
But here's the difference. In the past, I couldn't send an exclusive buyer agency agreement to that broker and say, hey, you can't do that. But now I can. So when Lauren says, hey, they're purchasing this property and they went through the listing agent, but I have an exclusive buyer agency agreement, all good. I probably won't even present it to that broker until 5 months out and they went through the home inspection. They did all the work. And then I'm gonna present it with my attorney's letterhead and say, let us know when to send the commission bill. No problem.
Found that most agents are cooperative when they
Yeah.
have an open house and you call them and say, I can't bring my buyer because I'm
Right.
gonna be out of town or whatever. Don't worry, send me their information and I will protect you. They're
You're,
almost always like.
you're a pro. You're a pro. You're a pro. Everybody on this thing is a pro.
It's
Majority of
it's for the
agents.
buyers that forget to mention that they're working with an agent,
Mhm.
and then,
How
all of a
many-
sudden it's an issue.
How many agents are full-time in this industry?
Yeah.
90% of the agents in this industry are part-time. Okay, so what you just described is experience. I don't think that all the agents do that. And who knows? Sometimes the buyer may not be loyal and tell you that they're gonna go to the open house.
So Leslie has a question.
Yeah.
She is listing a commercial property.
Mhm.
Does she continue to use the old forms?
No, you're good. Commercial is off of this. You don't need it. Commercial transactions and commercial real estate is not included in this.
Okay.
It's already ruthless.
Yeah, I'll be calling you on that, Damone.
You're the attorney, Leslie. I need to call you.
They did,
She's the New York, you're the New York attorney. I gotta
I
call you.
know, and I'll be calling you on this
they
one.
did update the forms though in general as far as, seller's disclosures.
Yeah.
And for, flood for New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, so as long as, your forms have that on it, then you're good.
Yeah, and then,
We have that, right? We have the forms, or is
Yep.
it just,
it's,
okay,
it's all gonna be in the Google folder and I'm gonna keep updating it and I'll keep sending it out to the company as well. So
Okay.
just like you guys have been doing, when you sign a listing agreement and you guys send it over to us, now we're gonna really be going through it with a fine tooth comb and
Mhm.
making sure that everybody's in compliance and nobody is doing
right.
anything.
okay.
Basically with the forms, like, just don't print out like, 20 of them in a shot. Like, just keep on pulling the
Yeah.
new forms from the drive, cause we're gonna update them. So if if you're part-time, you only put up like a handful of listings like here and there, and you're pulling out your stack of forms that are from like 5 years ago, you're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, so ease into it. I mean, when I did the seminar to be able to create this with all the attorneys that were in Trenton, none of them agreed on any of the forms. So the likelihood that the forms are gonna change, and these were like 5 powerhouse attorneys, like, Booz Allen Hamilton, Deloitte kids, like stuff like that. All of this is gonna change.
Yeah.
I don't know how much, but as it does, I'm staying on top of it and I'm gonna make sure you guys are notified.
But plan on something like a session like this, like every probably
Month.
3 to 4 months, like
Yeah.
it'll be like a major overhaul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. And this is really important. That's like Tommy Van Dyke. See that? We got an agent. That's one of our, no, I'm kidding. That's not one of our agents. But compensation disclosure changes in multiple listing services, not listing agreements. I get a lot of phone calls about this. Your listing agreement is still gonna have the compensation fields. Like, you still need to know what your seller's paying you, or what the tenant's gonna pay you, or the landlord's paying you, whatever, but you just can't disclose it onto the multiple listing service. And when we get through the Q&A phase, I'm gonna give you guys my opinion of what I think this is gonna do, and what a few brokerages have offered to create an alternative MLS, but we'll go into that in a little bit too. Even if the MLS allows it, you can't do it. So like All Jersey MLS, which is Central Jersey MLS, is not owned by NAR, so they weren't included in this lawsuit. So technically, they can have compensation fields on their MLS, but they were afraid that they were gonna get sued by all the other MLSs because it's a restriction of trade, right? So like if one MLS can do it and all the other MLSs can't do it, then they would start getting sued. So they took it out too. What is gonna happen if you list it on your company website? So A.W. Van Winkle and Company, because we have IDX feeds that come into our website from the MLS, we can't put it on our website that we cooperate. If I had an MLS, if I had a website that just said A.W. Van Winkle with nothing on it and no listings feeding into it, then yes, you can do it. Even that though, I don't know. I don't know, because there's a lot of attorneys that are being hired to monitor things
Like
like
you
this.
might be good in the moment and then they'll change the rules of, a month down the road. and
Yeah.
then You gotta, completely start from scratch.
Remember,
again.
this is a settlement on the case that was brought forth. This is not a settlement on future cases that could be brought against NAR again. So this doesn't mean that all of a sudden the lawsuits stop. So you might have little mini micro lawsuits after this. And really, the most annoying part is gonna be that real estate agents are gonna have to call one another to find out if their sellers are paying a cooperative agreement. Frank Pinheiro, who listed something in Clifton today, he said 6 agents already called him asking him if he cooperates. You know. Which makes me, but we'll get into that, but why would you list it on the MLS then? If your seller's not cooperating? And then what is the cost gonna be if all the MLSs have that much more listings being inserted into their database?
Do you think there'll be a lot more exclusive listings?
And a lot more
yeah.
expensive.
100%.
Yeah,
It's like
Everything
Post-
should be involved.
yeah.
posting onto the MLS is 50 right now, a pop,
Yeah.
roughly. Every, there's some that are 60, some, I don't know. But let's say 50, we just charge 50, right?
Yeah. we
That's
just,
gonna
like,
change.
stepped, like 40 years into the past.
I don't know what they're gonna charge. If less people are putting it on, but they still have the same overhead, they're gonna charge more. I don't know what that's gonna be, but for now, they're playing it pretty cool. The new CE requirement, you're gonna have one course on agency now. So this,
So kind of like how ethics is always required for CEs,
yeah,
now you're gonna have
a whole
additional
course on
requirement.
this, and the
Yeah.
whole course is gonna be just this, the agency.
Yeah.
Okay? And for those of you that find it annoying, you can contact Debbie, Rob, or myself, and we'll explain to you guys easy CE courses that we can help, you guys take. Compensation. Brokerages can accept payment from one or more parties to any real estate transaction now. So like, for instance, today, it's Cora, I think, one of the agents, the buyer, she's gonna be listing a property. I think she's also getting money from the buyer. I don't know how she did. But again, it's gonna be about how do you sell yourself, right? And that's why I put the Jerry Maguire show on, because that's what he did, right? He walked into the firm that he was in and he said, F you, F you, F you, I'm starting my own firm, who's coming with me? And I think like one person came with him,
Mhm.
or 2 people came with him. It's very similar to myself in this, yeah. Not like, I mean, I wasn't like this, but anyway, this is kind of what it is. The other thing is that agents can be paid through LLC. So Hemet, your wireless LLC, whatever. With like money, because Hemant's on there now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, we can start paying your offshore account in Switzerland or whatever the fuck we were doing before. So wireless LLC, whatever you called it, it's in play again. And that form is also on the Google Drive. That stipulates, because we couldn't do that. For I think the last, how long ago? 5 years, 10 years, they changed the laws where we couldn't do that,
And so you basically, you're cut. It would benefit anyone that's starting on.
especially in this state.
Yeah,
Mhm.
cause like, it's like your insurance policy.
Yeah.
Of getting sued.
Yeah.
And tax benefits and whatnot, and Hemant will be doing a session on
You're
that.
like, you're like, I didn't get paid that company.
Yeah, Hemant will be doing a session on how to create the LLC. And the tax benefits of it, right, Hemant?
Yeah.
And he's a Jersey City agent, so you know for sure. He's gonna make sure you keep every penny and take every penny.
Yeah, all the loopholes.
Yeah, Jersey City is it's like the new Brooklyn. And that's pretty much it. I mean, as far as frequently asked questions, this is straight from Trenton when I did my, you know, like little session with all the attorneys and whatnot. Do we need the buyer's agreement when taking in offers as a listing agent? No. Attorneys are gonna be writing it into their writers during the attorney review process for their buyers. But listing agents are not required to request the buyer agency agreements. Okay? What about what about estate representing an estate? So meaning like power of attorneys or probates or whatever. Are they able to fill out a seller's disclosures, everything? Yes. If you don't know anything, or if the probate attorney doesn't know anything, just put NA on the form, but fill out every single section, okay? What about buyers that cannot afford to pay a fee and the seller isn't paying? You don't have to work for free, although it is one of the major downfalls of the law. Because it could potentially open up discrimination claims. This is why I keep telling every single one of you, you need to state that you're only gonna show properties where the seller would pay so as not to work for free and mitigate any type of discrimination claims that could come up, right? You're telling them, I'll show you whatever it is that pays. You know, doesn't matter what area or what territory or whatnot. And this avoids, you know, redlining or what, although I don't know, I think it's gonna open it up to lawsuits. Now, can a designated realtor broker participate in designated agency? Yes. Okay, so the positive part of all of this is that now all the worry about dual agency and not being able to serve two masters or two parties or whatever you want to call it, it's done with. Now you can represent whatever you want within the same firm. Does a listing agent need to provide listing agreements to buyer's broker? No. Although, I know what's gonna happen. Buyer's agents are gonna say, I don't trust you. So they're gonna call the listing agent, and the listing agent is gonna say, well, yeah, we're only paying out 1% or 2%. You don't need to ask the listing agent to show you the listing agreement anymore, because the attorneys are gonna be putting it into the writers during the attorney review process. So they can't lie to you, right? I think you asked me that today too, Rob. They can't lie to you. Will there be a universal broker-to-broker compensation agreement? Yes. So I did this when I was in Trenton. Yes, that's part of I think it was Form 148, which is the Form 148, Cooperating Broker Compensation Agreement. Okay.
I mean, this will make sense for this market, but what happens when it turns? When you have like an excess of inventory. And then now you're gonna have like, cause I mean, I would imagine buyers are more up to paying a fee now because there's no inventory.
Right.
But what happens when there's a ton of inventory and it's like, the sellers are like, no, I'm not gonna pay, but like your commission's gonna be dropped to like nil.
Right, because the buyers.
No,
don't
if-
pay it either.
If there's a,
I feel the same way.
so think of Florida right now.
There's a ton of inventory there because there are
They're given-
insurance issues.
Yeah, where I was, I was just there. If you went if you're going east or what, I don't know, west or east from where I was, if you went 20 miles, they're giving Teslas with the property. Because you can't get flood insurance.
Uh,
Not only is the seller paying the commission, the seller's giving cars, the seller will pay for 1 year's worth of taxes, the seller, so. Yeah, right now here. New Jersey, New York City, Brooklyn, like we're kind of an anomaly, but at 7% interest rates. And prices coming down and homes sitting on the market longer than they have been in a very long time. I don't see the seller saying that. And I honestly don't see the seller's agent saying, well, I'll work for 2% when they can make 4 or 5 or 6. It's just, I don't see it.
So I think I sort of answered Leslie's questions, but she had just a question on the percentages. Are they still gonna be staying the same? For, going forward, and she put a range of about 3 to 6%.
I think so.
I think the percentages are gonna be staying the same. I just think that the splits aren't gonna necessarily be even.
Yeah,
All that much anymore going
Yeah.
forward.
I think that's fair, yeah.
It
Yeah,
should go up as like 60.
Okay.
Right.
yeah.
60-40 back then.
Yeah.
So we're gonna open it up to Q&A, whoever wants to. How do I have to unmute you guys? Or can you
No,
guys,
they can unmute themselves.
you can unmute yourselves?
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's any questions or,
So is there, okay, so I heard some of you, this is Leslie, hey, everybody. I heard you say, like somebody did a deal today. So if I get a buyer,
yeah,
you do you have any talking points on this? Like, so if I have a buyer
Yeah.
and so I'm not working for free. So I have to try to get them to sign the exclusive.
yeah. Well, they have to sign something.
They have to sign something.
Everybody has to sign
Oh,
something.
they do? They
Yeah,
have to sign
they have
something,
to.
as even as a working with a buyer. So I show someone a house, they have to sign
They
something.
have to sign
Yeah.
something.
So they have to sign something,
Yeah.
which ensures, but which one ensures that I will get paid? Is it just looking for houses where where the seller
So,
is?
so-
That's,
so what you want to do is get them to sign an exclusive buyer agency agreement. And then within the exclusive buyer agency agreement, there's like a little section where you could write notes. On that, you say, if I show you homes where the seller is not paying the fee, then I am willing to accept a flat fee of whatever. That's what's been closing.
Mhm.
You can also say, you can make it a percentage of the sale, be like, you pay my 2%. You can say whatever you want, but the likelihood that a buyer who barely has the money to put a down payment
That's on top of, right, that's
on top of,
sales.
exact,
well, that's what I was gonna ask you, so even if you say, 5,000,
yeah,
where are they getting that from? I mean, if they're just,
bank account.
so then you have to know that
They
somebody
can
has
probably roll it into
enough
their mortgage,
asset.
yeah.
You,
Do they
You-
roll it, you know what I mean? I'm trying.
no, you can't, so right now,
Yeah,
rolling it
they-
into your mortgage is illegal.
Yeah,
And we're gonna have a lender, we're gonna pick one of the 85 lenders that haunt my life on a daily basis. Come in and explain that. Right now, it's illegal. Is that gonna change? Yes. Yes,
I'm sure they
absolutely.
can hide that in like a
There-
203K.
And
But I
they're-
mean, doesn't it, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out.
But are they,
buy
but are they gonna be willing to pay an extra $2.55 on their monthly to pay your commission, Leslie? Is that extra 5,000 now that they have to put in gonna mess up their loan to value ratios?
Yeah, all of those things.
Is that, so the people that this was made to help, it hurts the most, which is first time home buyers.
Right. So if you have that, that's what I'm saying. It
it
just,
hurts the sellers too.
You need
because
to,
you're gonna be
right,
Drawing from a smaller pool of buyers.
yeah, and the sellers are gonna draw from a smaller pool
You
of,
have to get it, you gotta get a pre-approval.
pricing will come down though.
Yeah.
As a
I think
result of
it
this.
will affect pricing to a certain extent.
Pricing is gonna
Yeah.
come down. Which I think is gonna bring a lot more buyers to the table, but you need to have that sign. So Leslie, to avoid any type of headaches, I'm only gonna show you the properties where the seller's paying the fee.
okay.
You know, and then just say, listen, here's a list of properties, I'm gonna send it to you from but the notion that people are gonna put things onto the MLS when they know that they're gonna send it to their buyers and then they're not cooperating is crazy to me. Why would
Because the next step would be, I'm sorry, is you're saying then we'd have to call, even though it's on the MLS, I mean, that makes sense. Why
you
would
gotta
they?
call every single property?
Yeah, well, every property that I see that they may be interested in, I have to reach
No.
out to the realtor and say, are you paying? Is your seller paying?
Yeah,
And that's
That's
not
a
like,
damn
you-
They
headache.
you're-
can't, they
you're-
can't even get a seller's concession at, like, is that what you mean by roll it into their mortgage?
Yeah, so Lauren's asking about seller's concession.
you can do a seller's concession, but I don't know how that's gonna go into your pocket. The seller's concession is.
Well, it's a way to get it into the buyer's pocket is my point of view. So if they don't have that cash to add another, so do it for the flat fee of $5,000, but say, hey, just make sure they're
Yeah, but-
offering
But this,
within,
But then that's the
that's
assumption.
very
that
smart.
it is
That's
a
very
seller.
smart. Lou.
Hmm.
That's
Huh?
very smart. But remember this, a seller's concession is only gonna go off of the purchase price.
Right.
So the amount that they had in their bank account to put as towards the down payment doesn't increase. They're not getting the money.
And that's assuming with the way the market is right now. I know down here, they still have lines around the corner.
Yeah,
So-
everywhere in New
Yeah,
Jersey,
so the seller may not be inclined to say, I'm giving a concession.
they're
You-
giving concessions now.
no,
They're
yeah,
gi-
it would still, the net would still have to win, right? Say it's multiple offers, it would still have to net, even
So,
with the 5,000 concession, more than
she's right.
everybody else's
right.
offer, but why
Yeah,
wouldn't it, like,
I don't
so,
know
like,
what
I've
they mean
had
down here.
people
That's
do
you
it. 'Cause
can't get a deal down here putting a
but how would it go into
it's been a
your,
while, but it's possible, and I think it might become more common practice if it's
Maybe now,
possible for the realtor to get the cash. Huh?
Yeah. I don't know.
but how would it go
If
into
I'm
your
trying to get a
pocket?
property in this,
I don't know, I'm pulled that out of my ass.
So the only way that it would go into to the pocket of the agent is if they gave a seller's concession. It went off of the listing price. So like, let's say the property was selling for $10. And the down payment on the $10 was $4. Okay? If they give a $2 seller's concession, then the buyer would put less of a down payment. That's the only way. So if the buyer was gonna put less of a down payment because of the seller's concession, then they would be able to give you a little bit of that down payment money that they were gonna put down. But that's if they would. do
Yeah, I
that.
mean, that it moves money around because I feel like I've seen, it was a while ago, but a person, they paid somebody with their seller's concession. It was
Was it
less
the-
competitive. That's why the seller's concession worked, but
Commercial.
Yeah. But we
No,
can,
you can do that, but the only way that it would go into your pocket is if the buyer would pay you.
right?
So the
yeah,
seller-
yeah.
So the buyer has to say, okay, well, I'm getting $5,000 off the purchase price. And I could put $5,000 less as a down payment because my lender told me that that's okay. Now I'm gonna give that 5,000 to Lauren.
So the only thing I'm gonna say about that is Leslie, down here. So that
Yeah.
means I have to, with both parties, I have to say that to the buyer, okay, I need you to pay me 5. Then when we put our offer in, I have to the seller who's probably got 50 offers, I need a $5,000 concession. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I would recommend maybe
I
do
don't
this
know
on
if that
something that's
works.
been sitting for a minute.
I don't know if that works.
It's not
That's-
gonna.
Yeah, don't do
That's-
it on the one with 600 offers. I don't
Well-
recommend it.
The lines out the door and the 50 people showing up to open houses.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Is gonna be a thing of the past in the next
Yeah.
couple months.
like the property
Yeah,
has
yeah,
been
yeah,
on the
yeah.
market for like 3+ months, like that's the one, you could maybe talk about.
Even in this town, I'm seeing things come back on market. All day long, things are coming back, Karlstadt, things are, Leslie, out here, there's no taxes. In certain parts of town, so like Karlstadt, East
Really?
Rutherford,
Wow.
we're seeing stuff come back on market.
Okay.
$750,000 homes in East Rutherford, so across the train tracks are paying like 9,000 in taxes.
Yeah, cause they're not appraising, like,
Or they're just,
they try to get a mortgage commitment and they're like, are you kidding me?
yeah, or like the ridiculous offer where the guy put down 5%, but he's paying 50,000 above ask, the FHA loans aren't getting approved anymore.
Okay, well, that makes me feel
10%.
better. Because-
Yeah, but where
That's-
you are, there isn't that much inventory is the problem. In central Jersey, like Middlesex, Piscataway. You
Yeah,
know,
once your inventory starts building up, then it'll calm down. a little.
how many people are in your town, Leslie? 10,000, 12,000?
Yeah, around 12. Mhm.
Okay. There's 20,000 in Rutherford, and I call this the country. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think it's gonna simmer down. What you've been seeing, this is the first
Yeah, because they're crazy.
domino.
Well,
Well,
actually,
rates
I'm
are slowly
sorry.
ticking down, so.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Piscataway. I just Googled, you gotta Google stuff.
Yeah. How many-
Population. Well, that's.
I
No,
was gonna say
that's
11,000.
20, I mean, let me look at 2024, 2023.
It doesn't
Piscat-
matter. You don't need to be embarrassed that there's only like 10,000 people in the town.
No, it says New Jersey cities by population. That's the question, right?
Yeah,
Piscataway, 60,000 people in my town.
then you need to be transacting like 5 sales a month, Leslie.
Yeah, that's
got-
what it says.
Yeah.
60,000.
It's 60,000 people out there.
Google, how many
Really?
people live in Piscataway?
You're like 3 times the size of Rutherford.
2024. I'm telling you, that's
great.
what it says. Maybe that's why you,
Square
I'm
miles.
telling you, that's
It's
what
a
it's.
lot more square miles,
Yeah.
but each house is on like an acre. and a
Yeah,
half.
we have,
Yeah, you got
yeah,
big acres.
we have big, yeah, we have a lot of land down here.
So that's pretty much it. When in
Okay.
doubt, send us the forms. Or call us or call me or send an email or text and whatever, and
Yeah.
give us a little bit of time. I try my best to respond and sign things within a few hours, but
Yeah.
sometimes life gets in the way. So if
Yeah, just remember,
give
like,
us a little bit of breathing room.
whoever you're talking to, they have to sign something. They fit into a category somewhere.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the key.
They
They
have to sign before you
have to
show.
sign something.
They have
Okay,
to sign something.
yeah, I got it.
Technically, before you take a buyer out, they should sign
Dude,
something.
how many are the orders,
Right.
orders you get when you have someone signing multiple sheets? Like, what's happening, someone who signed, like,
Yeah.
not telling me that I'm working with someone else and just signing everyone's. sheet?
Yeah, I mean,
But
yeah,
you have a non-exclusive.
yeah, I'm
relationship.
sure like
Yeah.
50,000 non-exclusives will be signed on a,
I think the problem's gonna rise with open houses.
Yeah,
That's what I see.
we're hosting an open house this weekend
yes, Frank.
with Frank and Clifton, so we will let you guys know how that goes.
How it goes,
I would have the agency agreement sheet right next to the other one too. Like, you have
Yeah.
them sign the agency,
Yeah.
if someone walks in, if
Yeah,
they're not working with someone, get them.
yeah, so I mean, you're required to have the one disclosure there, like,
Right.
no matter what.
Yeah.
Going from August first on, you have to have that.
Right.
So have like a sign sheet and then have your agency disclosure sheet right there.
Right, I would have that, yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Don't-
think you have to get around people, because sometimes I think buyers are not gonna wanna sign an exclusive agency.
Absolutely.
agreement.
Yeah.
They're not gonna want to, because I've had somebody say that to me, said, well, what if I walk into an open house? Then I have to buy it through you? If I have an exclusive agency
Yes,
agreement?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now they're
So I
also,
can see that.
but like going.
Like, what if I
forward-
give you a rebate?
That's a good.
What if I give you $1,000?
So they will go into an open house and they're like, well, you didn't show me this open house.
Mhm.
I want this house, you didn't show it to me.
But now when they walk in that open house.
It
they
doesn't matter if
read
you have the
The
exclusive.
disclaimer that says in bold
Oh, yeah.
that
Right, you're not.
I am not working in your best interest.
Right.
I
Right.
am working for the seller.
That's-
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why we go-
So that's helpful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It-
so that,
yeah.
that'll help, with
Depending on where they put it, who knows where they're gonna put it? The listing agent could put it in the back of the bathroom door
Yeah, but,
or on the wall of the basement.
but if they start, they, put people there checking on your open houses.
So that's what I'm worried
Yeah.
about, because this was not chump change. You're talking about billions of dollars that were spent and the companies that were hired and some of the people that were in Trenton. You're in New York, Leslie, Booz Allen Hamilton, Deloitte, these people are not like guppies.
It might not necessarily be like attorneys or like,
Yeah, it could,
people-
it could just be auditors.
Yeah, or it could be, other brokerages,
Mhm.
just going around checking
Yeah,
and be
no
like,
idea.
like, I'm gonna drum up a fine for them.
Mhm.
Yeah, the best thing is to just do it the right way. You just put it up,
Yeah.
right? You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you put it right next to the sign sheet.
Yeah,
That's,
Like, and draw attention to it, and be like, read that before you sign
yeah. But think of it this way, we live in an era now where DocuSign and e-sign and these things exist. Can you imagine if this was like 20 years ago?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you had to take a piece of paper and drive it to the client if the client could, oh man. Forget about it.
Let me fax
So,
it to you.
Or faxes.
Fax.
Exactly.
remember when
Yeah.
I first started, we had a fax company in Maine, was
That's
it
how
in
we did
Maine?
our credit checks, via fax.
In Maine.
Yeah. In
Who did-
Maine.
I think Lauren was there too in the beginning too.
Yeah, and
We didn't
that-
have a phone number for
He
this
didn't have a
guy.
phone number, he only had. a
Or an
fax number.
email, he had a 1-800 number,
Yeah.
and the fax went to Maine, and it came back from Maine, but it came back, and that's it.
Uh,
And,
You're talking
and we
about
got
the
a,
credit check?
yeah,
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, yes. I didn't
Yeah,
know it was
I-
in Maine, but yeah.
and we got an email once, maybe every other month with the bill,
yeah.
and we didn't even
You know
know
what I
if
did love about them though? They gave you a lovely little like summary of all
they
the
did.
crap
did.
that was really legible. Like I hate
Very
NTN's
Hallmark.
reports.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
cute, it was cute, and
It was
very Hallmark.
adorable.
In the 60s and 70s, I don't know about, so now think of the technology that you have. And think about, I mean, the potential. So if you can get paid from both sides, yeah, it's great.
Mhm.
You know, tell the buyer, even if the buyer gives you 2,000 and you have a listing.
I think it's just, the
There's ways
quicker
to-
you can adapt to this, the more successful you'll be.
Mhm.
I mean,
Because-
it's an odd scenario, but what if you have an exclusive buyer's agreement? They want a specific house, or they see a house that they're interested in, but
Yeah.
like. The seller's not cooperating, they're not gonna pay. And you don't show them, like, are you, like, isn't there an obligation, isn't that kind of like? Don't you have a fiduciary responsibility to the buyer to actually show them a house that they want that fits their criteria?
So I would say that you have to be open and honest upfront and say that.
I'm
if-
not showing you. unless
Yeah,
you're-
if, you know, they're not willing to, you know, compensate me, like, I'm not willing to show it.
Gotcha.
So you have to be even across the board and say that like upfront.
Right,
Um,
yeah, because you're not gonna work for nothing. I
Yeah,
Well,
mean,
exactly,
You have the ability to see how much the seller is paying their agent to list it,
That's gonna be on a listing agreement, and
Okay.
you'll see that,
so you can negotiate off that.
you'll see that eventually in the process, you're not gonna see it upfront.
Got
You have to kind of take a leap of faith with the listing agent that what they're verbalizing to you is not a lie.
Right.
So that's gonna be a problem, that's gonna be something I think they're gonna tighten up, you know, going forward.
I don't think they're gonna, you can't lie. You
I'm
can't
gonna
be. a
try
lis-
and get that in a
It's
text,
gonna
not
be in the
verbally
writing.
too.
You can lie, you can
I was
lie.
gonna say,
Rob's
well,
right.
But
You
it's
can
not,
lie.
it's not gonna pass review.
Yeah.
It's not gonna get past attorney
Yeah,
review.
get off your pedestal where people don't lie in this industry.
Uh-huh.
So they didn't know all that before the.
He's
writer.
jaded,
Yeah.
huh?
They didn't know all that before the writer.
You should know all that before the writer.
Yeah,
That should be.
But there's,
But you're not obligated to know.
yeah, but they're saying the
There's-
listing agent will
You're
lie.
not
It's
obligated
like,
to tell you.
they signed a cooperative agreement that they're gonna go 50-50, and they're saying that the listing agent will say it's 70-30. And try to take an extra 20%, but it doesn't matter.
or like the listing agent is telling you that they're giving you 2%, you're like, oh, great, this guy's willing to work with me, and then you find out, you're like, oh, wait, you know, he's getting 6%.
Yeah,
Well, I think the important thing is you gotta get it in writing.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
the important thing.
Yeah.
No phone calls, forget about it.
yeah,
yeah,
Gotta be in writing.
yeah,
In other words, you never protect.
yeah.
yeah.
We know that from.
Well, that's what it is, like, if you're quick to adapt to this, you're gonna like, you know, you're gonna be able to work with the buyers, because you're gonna know the routine.
Yeah,
The agents that aren't able to adapt to this, they're gonna be stumbling through the dark, and, you know, they're gonna go through a deal, not make any money off of it, and they're gonna be like, oh, okay, I'm never doing this again.
I'm not sure.
yeah. Yeah. But I personally think it's gonna create more loyalty among buyers,
I think it will too, I agree with that.
you know?
Yep, because the buyers are gonna know no matter who they work with, this is the way it's gonna be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because it's not just us.
There's gonna be a
It's
learning,
not just us.
there's gonna be a learning curve on both ends, you know.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think
with-
that's the thing, the
with
learning
the
curve.
buyers and sellers,
Yeah, but it makes sense. Right.
But
because
eventually
you
it'll
don't
become
want
like the new norm with,
Right.
after a little while,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, and everybody's going through the same thing. That's the good part,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you know? And a lot of times people found that the buyers weren't loyal. I think this is gonna create at least some sort of loyalty.
Yeah.
You know, you're signing a form. If
Signing the agreement, right.
you're signing an
I
agreement,
feel like buyers are more loyal than tenants. Tenants.
Yeah, tenants, I mean, this is gonna be huge for all the people that do luxury rentals, the OP market, or just work with rentals.
Yeah,
This is
the big part.
perfect. This is
So you
perfect
need to sign for rentals too?
for rentals too. Yeah, exclusive tenant agency. So like Hemet, all the OP buildings, and then all of a sudden they go to another agent with in another building in Jersey City, it doesn't matter.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. You know, they're
But-
incentivized to work with you.
But will the buyers sign this exclusivity?
Why not? What do they have to lose? I'm trying to understand, like, what is it that they have to, you have to be able to sell it, but what is it that they have to lose? Anyway, any buyer that sees anything with any buyer's agent has to sign something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But what does it matter? Either they're gonna sign it with you
Or
or they're gonna
someone
sign it
else.
with
Right.
someone
got
else.
it.
They're gonna still have to sign it.
That's the law now. I got it. Yep.
It's
yep.
the law. It's
Yeah.
not like we're doing anything that's like an anomaly.
Yeah, it's not like you're forcing it down their throat,
Right.
you know, like, you know, if you, like, 6 months ago, if, you know, you float around, you know, the buyer's, you know, agreement, it was basically just to like cover your ass.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you thought that maybe your buyer was, you know, gonna try and, you know, work around you.
We had a lot of agents that were doing this before this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Rosa's ever shown a property to a buyer without the buyer saying, I will exclusively work with you.
Yeah,
It's just not worth it. Why do it? It's not worth your time.
yeah.
It's just not worth it. So there are pros.
Mhm.
But we're gonna have to take more CE courses
Yeah, this is,
and, it might be something we're able to offer very soon
Yeah,
as well ourselves. So that you guys could just all do it with us.
yeah.
No, there's not gonna be any beer and wine and stuff, but we'll have food.
Ah,
if you pass, then you get the beer.
If you, yeah, if you pass.
All
But yeah,
right.
I think it was good, and I thank you guys all for coming out. And for
Yep.
staying online,
Does anyone else have any questions?
yeah,
Mm-mm. Thank you.
you got it, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Call me if you guys need anything.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
We concluding? Should I close it?
Well, I think it's informative.
You saved it, right?
Got a little bit more
Recording
knowledge.
session.
Yeah, I think once I close
The
it,
buyers are just gonna, it's just gonna fall into place. They'll be used to it.
Yeah, because it was
I
recording.
I think you're gonna thin the real estate earning,
Huh?
for sure.